Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Bordertown Strange. I'm Pam. This is my co-host, Jess. And
Hello.
We have Enzo, Cyrille, and Mark Bannon with us tonight. Always
Hello.
favorites. Woohoo! Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. So tonight's episode is all about, well, actually, it's the beginning of our deep dive into Strange Kentucky. And the main focus of tonight will be on the Mammoth Cave System and Kelly Hopkinsville Goblins. So that's what you need to get ready for. We've got all kinds of goodies. We were talking backstage. I'm super excited about this show. So we'll have fun stuff to share with everybody. Before we get started, Jess, do you have any housekeeping?
Yep, just the usual. If you're hanging out on YouTube right now, or if you're hanging out on Facebook watching us live, take a really quick second to hit all those thumbs ups and bells and buttons and likes and shares and all that good stuff. We would so much appreciate it. Also, remember to send us in your favorite show ideas, your favorite topics, or even your personal stories. We would love to hear them and we'd love to give you a shout out on the page. We also want to remind everybody that we have Bordertown Paracon coming up August 8th. If you want more information about that, please hop in on our website, Bordertown Paranormal, or www.bordertownparanormal.com. You can also find links to all of our stuff on there, including this show. Yeah, and all the fun stuff going on there. Go check that out. And I think that's about it, except for I wanted to give Pam a shout out. We missed her birthday last week. It fell in between shows. She brings joy every year to tax day.
It means since we missed it that you didn't age a year this year.
I love that. I'm perfect with that.
It's like a leap year thing. Yeah. You know.
Yeah, there you go.
I like that a lot, actually. So that means I'm only, what, 20 something?
What, again?
Yeah.
Oh. So, as Pam said, we're going to do Kentucky. So, I'm going to give everybody a heads up. There is definitely going to be a part 2. So, here in 2 weeks, you're going to see part 2 because Kentucky is a weird, strange little place. As you can see, we brought a local Kentuckian with us. And he's about as weird as you get.
Whiskey, I'm ready to go.
Oh, he's set.
Yeah,
nice.
He's
have a real cork.
Yeah. So just to give everybody at home a good idea of what we're looking at here, I was telling everybody backstage, ooh, that was like a real cork.
That was a real cork.
In order to start the research on this, because I knew there was going to be a lot, I hit a whole bunch of my notebooks and I started tagging everything that had to do with Kentucky. And it got to be too much. And I have
Oh my God, look at this.
all the red. It's all the blue.
All the red, the blue, they're all Kentucky. This is going to be so much bigger than Strange, Michigan, guys. Just a heads up. We're going to, like Pam said, we're going to hit the cave system today. We're going to hit Kelly Hopkinsville. If we happen to go past that, we're going to hit the weeds. Because Kentucky has so much more than just a few ghost stories and a couple cryptids. We've got not only the huge cave system, but we also have every kind of cryptid you can think of. And some you can't. Hello. Enzo was just talking about one backstage that's going to be very interesting to hear about. We have all sorts of missing 411 and missing time. And we have ghost stories and folklore and meat showers. We'll let Enzo have that one. I think that's one of his favorites.
There's some weird stuff for sure.
It's insane. We've got
obviously it was vultures.
Yeah. UFOs, aliens, you name it, they've got it, and then some you've never even thought of. So we're going to dive into this, and I think we all agreed we may or may not be able to get this all shoved in just to 2 episodes. So it may be a reoccurring thing that we hit back on every once in a while and just pull up a new section of Strange Kentucky because, oh my goodness.
There's so much.
Yeah.
And if you guys noticed when Jess picked up the notebook, she had the wide-eyed look. Yeah.
Yeah.
This whole day
I had to
into that.
I had to create an index because I knew I couldn't keep track of what all was in every notebook, even with the tabs. There's too many tabs, so I made an index and I labeled
You
each
need
one of my
tabs for your
notebooks.
tabs.
Right
Tabs
there,
first.
see?
Yep.
I got
I created an index.
myself, so yeah. Fun.
Oh, sheesh.
Oops.
What
I'll be
was
right
that?
back.
What the hell was that?
I may have had a notable.
A notalange?
A
A
notebook.
notebookalange.
Got a failure. We have a notebook failure.
So before we move on, and while Jess is taking care of all of that, I do want to let everybody know we did secure BordertownStrange.com as well. And right now it's just linked directly back to our show notes page on BordertownParanormal.com. So yeah, if you guys get a chance, go show us some love on there. Tell us what you think of the website. Let's see what we got over here. Ian said whiskey and fried chicken. I'm already exhausted all my Kentucky knowledge.
You got the big two,
That's awesome. Oh, and bourbon is also from Kentucky. Yes, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
which is different from whiskey.
It is. And hey to everybody in the chat. It's good to see everyone. Okay, let's go ahead and move forward with the What the Weird Word of the Week. It's my turn this week, and I found this one. I thought it couldn't be more perfect for this evening. The What the Weird Word is hollow murmur. And a hollow murmur is a subterranean whispering phenomenon said to occur in ancient cave networks, where natural acoustics mingle with geological pressure to produce sounds that resemble voices, tapping, or distant movement. However, and the part that we love, in folklore, hollow murmur is believed to be a communication from the unseen, not necessarily spirits, but entities that inhabit the deep places beneath the land. Some traditions claim these murmurs are warnings. Others say they are invitations. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, I thought that was a fun one.
And it's fun to say.
Go deeper into the cave.
Right? Yeah, if I hear a murmur, I'm out of there for sure. Definitely not following anything. I think all of us here know better. And hopefully everybody in the chat knows better too. Don't be following that crazy stuff.
The man-eating demons.
But do say it. It's fun. Hollow murmur.
Hollow murmur. Isn't that a great word?
Hollow murmur.
I saw that and I was like,
Hologram murmur.
Hollow
Sounds
murmur,
like a heart
murmur.
it
condition.
does, doesn't it? A hollow
It
murmur.
does.
Wow, way to bring down the room there, Enzo.
I have a hollow murmur.
A hollow murmur. It sounds like the Grinch has a heart problem. A hollow murmur.
Mm.
Hollow heart.
A hollow murmur.
Yes,
But it grew 3 sizes and is even more.
All righty. So now that we've got all the intro and stuff out of the way, what direction do we want to go? Do we want to
Well,
pull
let's
up the
start
maps?
with pull up the map. So we're going to start out with Mammoth Cave tonight because it's a pretty big topic. And I have found that a lot of the other things we're going to talk about, like in the next show, kind of leads back to the Mammoth Caves just a little bit. Cave-wise. I mean, we got a lot of cryptids that are popping out of different cave parts all over Kentucky. So, Mammoth Cave itself is really, really huge. You can see here on the map kind of where it's placed in Kentucky. If Pam will move to the next map, you'll see it takes up a huge section of Kentucky. Mm-hmm. And it's even expanding day by day. We don't have an exact number on the miles of it because it literally gets bigger every week because there are people actively looking for it right now and going into new systems even as we speak. So
The latest official number I saw was in 2021. They listed it at 420 miles surveyed.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy. Yeah. So that many miles, it does take up about 53,000 surface acres. And of course, that is growing also as they expand and explore a little bit more. It also sits at this time about 30 stories deep. But of course, that is expanding too as they keep hunting up more. It just keeps getting bigger, ladies and gentlemen.
And
You
it's
can
not
hide
just
a
under
whole
Kentucky.
civilization there.
Oh, for
Yeah.
sure. It's not just under Kentucky either. It expands into other states around it. So,
Oh yeah.
wait,
Yeah.
what are we doing? My computer's doing something.
Oh,
Oh,
My computer's been acting really weird today, and it's giving me heart failure here.
it's because we're talking about strange Kentucky.
it's getting you a hollow
So-
murmur.
It's giving me something. Don't restart. If you restart, I will die. Okay.
All right, continuing on while Pam's having her heart attack, her
Your hollow
hollow
murmur.
murmur. The cave system itself and the land above it became, well, most of the land above it, not all of it because it's so huge, became an authorized national state park in 1926 and was actually fully established in 1941. However, the cave system was being viewed and toured long before that. Did you want to talk about that a little bit, Pam?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me bring up my little thing here. Here, let me stop sharing for a second so I don't skip you through all the other deals, and we'll just show some of those real quick. Okay. Click, 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 click. Okay, so like Jess was saying, the Mammoth Cave has been around for a while, and it's actually been a touristy spot for a very long time. And in fact, I found a visitor's guide, and it was called like Ramblings in the Mammoth Cave or something like that. And it was back from 1844, and it's super, super cool. All the stuff that they have on there. So they talk about, and the pictures that we're showing here, this was from a book, and it was called Illustrated America, and it's from 1886. And I wanted to show this so you could get an idea of what the cave entrance looked like back, and this was 20 years after this visitor's guide that I'm going to share a little bit out of. But how cool is that to see what they were going down into? People were like, there was ladies and families and all kinds of people. And when they went down into this, and at the time there were miles of cave that they were going through, and all they had were the little oil lanterns to walk through with. I can't imagine just how spooky that would have been.
Oh yeah.
No, thanks.
Well, and they've dated back some of original Native Americans that have gone back there from like 1200 BC, that they've found some stuff way back in the, they attribute the early Native Americans from the 1200 BC range to exploring about 19 miles worth of tracks and caverns, because it's also important to remember that Mammoth Cave, I mean, it's called Mammoth Cave because it's so honking huge.
Yeah.
They didn't find mammoths in there. Well, maybe they, I don't know. But some of those larger cavern areas are like football field size.
Yeah, they're ginormous.
Right. I've got a note here that says 5,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
They said there's one ballroom inside of there that you actually tour where the ceiling is so high you can't see the top of it.
Yeah.
They can't shine enough lights up to reach through the darkness to hit the top of it.
How freaky is that?
that's
Super
pretty crazy.
One thing that I thought was really cool out of this visitor's guide, they talked about the different independent attractions that can be found inside the cave itself. And like you said, they called it a capacious ballroom. It was 90 feet by 30. And this was back in 1844. And you know it ended up being larger than that. It had a fine band of music, a 10-pin alley, romantic walks and carriage drives in all directions, rendered easy access. Yeah, so I thought that was fun. And then they had some interesting facts that they added in. And again, this is 1844, so what constitutes interesting? I don't know. Number one was no accidents of any kind have ever occurred in Mammoth Cave. And I think we can say that's not true.
Somebody's pants are on fire.
They are. Oh, and number 2, visitors going in or coming out of the cave are not liable to contract colds, or on the contrary, colds are commonly relieved by a visit to the cave.
Now, when you go over here, you might get tuberculosis.
Exactly. Stay away from those little cabins.
Do that.
Number 3, no impure air exists in any part of the cave.
Whoa.
And number 4, reptiles of no description have ever been seen in the cave. On the contrary, they, as well as quadrupeds, avoid it. That's a big fact.
I think there was a lot of pants on fire.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, and to be fair, like it was only a few years ago, but they did classify, Mammoth Cave as its own separate, unique ecosystem.
Yes.
There are creatures down there. None of them, crazy big or anything like that. That are specific only to that cave system. They're not found anywhere else in the world.
Which is just really cool.
The Mammoth Cave Systems in Kentucky were responsible for Edgar Rice Burroughs' inspiration for one of his novel series.
Yes.
Journey to the Center of the Earth. Oh, wait, that's
the Pellucidar series.
That sounds fabulous.
Actually, there's quite a few books that came out of it. One of H.P. Lovecraft's very first big haunted stories was based on the caves. It was called The Beast in the Cave. He wrote in 1905. It was all about a tourist that got separated from his tour group and then got chased down by an albino huge crazy man thing. So,
yeah.
I would watch that movie today. I would watch it.
Yeah,
After Earth 4 was one of the first ones that Burroughs wrote. It was inspired by this whole cave system.
Yeah, it's very cool. So there were quite a few other little interesting facts. One of them was wild. It says, and it's number 10, and as we can tell with the first few that we've talked about, they're not always the most truthful. Is that a good word? But the last one is no sound, not even the loudest peal of thunder, is heard 1/4 of a mile inside the cave. I don't know if that's true or not. Could be.
That sounds about
right.
right.
Mean like
it's
exterior sounds or
makes good sound in there.
Yeah. So could be. It also said,
a 1/4 mile in, you won't hear the cannon fire from us trying to seal the entrance.
Yeah. It did say there at the time, and again, 1844, there are 226 avenues in the cave, 47 domes, 8 cataracts, and 23 pits. And I know there's way more than that.
Yeah. Well, when it became a national park in 1941, they still had only mapped about 40 miles of it at that time. So they didn't have near 40 miles back at this point either. And another one I thought was interesting was decomposition and consequent putrefaction are unobservable in all parts of the cave. So, which actually
pretty much
probably is true, because there was a lot of saltpeter. There was a lot of, I don't want to say chemicals, but natural chemicals, I guess. Would that be a good word?
They mined saltpeter there for the War of 1812.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they did.
So, and they talk about in this little visitors thing, it talks about walking over the ruins of the old saltpeter mining equipment and things. But I love, how flowery things were when they wrote about them. And this was great. It says the cave is about 200 yards from the hotel, and you proceed to it down a lovely and romantic dell, rendered umbrageous by a forest of trees and grapevines, and passing by the ruins of saltpeter furnaces and large mounds of ashes. You turn abruptly to the right and behold the mouth of the great cavern, and as suddenly feel the coldness of its air. It is an appalling spectacle. How dark, how dismal, how dreary. Descending some 30 feet down rather rude steps of stone, you are fairly under the arch of this netherworld. Before you, in looking outwards, is seen a small stream of water falling from the face of the crowning rock. with a wild faltering sound upon the ruins below, and disappearing in a deep, and behind you all is gloom and darkness. Dun dun
Ooh.
dun.
Rude steps and netherworlds.
Right?
Very
They had
creepy.
the best words. But if you look at the picture here, you can see the entrance, and you can see the waterfall that goes right over the entrance of it.
Yeah. Enzo's showing a picture too.
Oh,
This is
sorry.
actually one of the tubs that they use to separate out some of that saltpeter that we talked about, because
Leaching
saltpeter
fat.
is used in the manufacture of gunpowder, amongst other things. But for the War of 1812 and even the Civil War after that, it was actually pretty handy thing, because a lot of these minerals are very accessible, because they found, like, even some of those 1200 BC artifacts that they found where they were using mussel shells to carve out things like saltpeter and
Gypsum,
gypsum, and a lot of other things like that.
Mirabolite, if I don't know what it is.
And it's amazing. There's an amazing amount of just stuff that literally is just embedded in the walls that you just need to scrape out, and you've got it.
That's so cool. One thing I wanted to point out before we move on, because I know we have a lot to cover, it does talk about, they talk about the guide that takes them down. He placed on his back a canteen of oil. He lights the lamps and gives one to each person. So you're going through this subterranean journey with this little bitty lamp, which anytime a big, nice wind comes through whistling through the tunnels, which it does, it would blow out those lights, blow out the little fires. So that would be spooky, I think. But one of the things that I thought was really cool was they talk almost off the bat. It says, at the place where our lamps were lighted are to be seen the wooden pipes which conducted the water as it fell from the ceiling to the vats or saltpeter hoppers. And near this spot, too, are interred the bones of a giant of such vast size as a skeleton, at least of such portions as it remain. With regard to this giant, or more properly skeleton, it may be well to state that it was found by saltpeter workers far within the cave years ago, and was buried by their employer where it now lies to quiet their superstitious fears. Not, however, before it was bereft of its head by some fearless antiquary. So they actually had
a giant skull sitting on the mantle.
Yep. Too funny. But yeah, I thought that was cool. And they found more than one mummy and skeleton and things in there too. Yeah. So.
And that's not the last time you're going to hear about giants in Kentucky.
Nope.
No.
Oh no.
Many pages of that. But that'll come later.
I mean, we've met Enzo. He is rather tall.
Yes.
And what? Mm-hmm. I am giant in all proportions. But it is fun, because like, I know as a kid running around like like city parks in Ashland, Kentucky, which is where I grew up, and which is like the northeastern part of the state. I was running up and down these mounds that were built into the city park, little trails, just running up and down. Kids like, no, these are mounds. Your classic Moundsville. There's probably somebody buried underneath of all of that, and I'm just like, yay, running up and down it and cutting little trails and stuff on it, not even thinking about it. No signage saying, hey, this is a possible grave site. You're jumping all over.
That's wild. And aren't there some in the city park there, right? Is that correct? Where is it? There's a well.
They're kind of all over that whole region, like the southern Ohio area, West Virginia, Kentucky, down into Tennessee. You'll find little spots of those mounds. And as sad as this is to say, early settlers, when they would come in, they would just, be nice, fertile tracts of land that they want to settle on. And there's like these weird mounds, like, just dig that up, get it out of the way. Just throw it away, whatever it is, just shove it all off over here. And that's what happened to a lot of those old mounds.
And some of the bigger ones, they built houses on to keep them from flooding.
Yeah. churches a lot of times would go on top of those.
Man, that's wild. Yeah, it's easy for us to say, man, that's wild, and I can't believe they did that. Who knows? Life is different back then.
Yeah.
Times were different.
Meanwhile, we're
Out of
20
New
minutes away
Orleans.
from a city where they put their water tower on top of a mound.
A huge mound. Yes.
Yeah.
They sure
In fact,
did.
they sheared the top of it off so it would be nice and flat for the tower. So,
Yep.
yeah, we can't say anything here either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Gotta love it.
I mean, there's part of me that just wants to lump it into ignorance. It's like, oh, well, they didn't know there was but I mean, during the excavation, basically
knew.
the just chopping down removal, I'm sure they had to discover a bunch of bones and something
Yes.
else.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm
just didn't
sure.
care.
For sure. Yeah.
Out with
There's
the old.
pictures. Yeah. There's pictures of it. It's off to the west of town. And in the old pictures of the old downtown, you can see it in the background. There's no denying what it was. It wasn't shaped like a regular hill or anything. It was
Yeah.
obviously mounded.
Yeah, in fact, if you look at it from above, it's actually more of a pyramid.
Yeah.
So,
I would like to see this place.
Yes. Yeah.
They
It's
found
very close. Let us know. We'll take you to it.
they found offerings around the base of it.
To a water tower?
Right? Offerings to the water god.
all right. Do
Like-
you have any more on that, Pam? Or did
I do, but I can
Okay.
talk about it later. I don't want to, because there's plenty of other stuff to go over as well. I did put up these two pictures to show. These are all drawings. They had some really good names for everything. They had like the bottomless pit. They had the church. They had the river Styx. They named some of those. They had the Devil's Armchair, I think, is in there.
Mm-hmm.
They had some great names for stuff.
Yeah. I think first off, let's get into like the spooky stuff. That's why everybody came for the
Okay.
weird and the spooky.
Absolutely.
Let's start off with Corpse Rock, because we've all been just talking about the crazy ass doctor getting ready for the show.
Yeah.
Does anybody want to take that topic on? Oh, nobody jump. I'll do it.
Go, Jess.
All right. So there is a area in the Mammoth Cave System that was kind of like a tuberculosis type of situation. It was a little hospital. It was ran by a doctor named Dr. Krogan, who actually had TB himself. Of course, back then they called it consumption.
There.
Right. The consumption.
There we go. The consumption. He believed that the cave's cool weather, which was a constant 54 degrees, and light moisture would be very beneficial to people who were suffering from consumption or tuberculosis as we know it now.
Yeah.
So he started like a little colony down there. He had these little cabins built, or they also called them huts, that would house a few at a time. I believe that there was 15 of these huts and 18 consumption patients the first year.
Right.
Unfortunately, within the first year, a few of them died from
What?
being down in the cold moisture.
Oh,
Yeah.
here, let me drop this. I'm sorry, Enzo. There we go.
Oh. It's just a different angle of this one of the same buildings that is down there. It's still down there today. You can go
Yes.
check it out.
You can go down and see them. Right outside of one of the front ones is something that they called Corpse Rock, and it's still there. When people with consumption passed, while they were waiting for them to be removed up and out of the cave, because it took a little bit, they would put them out on what we now call the Corpse Rock. It was nice and cool up there, keep them up off the floor so they could be easily moved later. Now, apparently, this entire area is extraordinarily haunted, especially Corpse Rock. They say a lot of times when the tour guides are taking tours through, they'll hear coughing and hacking and moaning sounds. And they've also said that they see shadows lurking in and out of those buildings and around Corpse Rock itself.
Some hollow murmurs going on.
Hollow murmurs, yeah. So Dr. Krogan, excuse me, himself is thought to actually haunt this area. He too also passed of tuberculosis or consumption. He actually, I was telling them backstage, I did a little bit extra work on him because I was kind of interested in his backstory. He apparently thought he was even better than his patients, and he had himself his own quarters built in another part of the cave that was a bit lower and actually had a cooler area to it because it had a lot more moisture coming in from an outside area. And I'm pretty sure that's what got him. He was actually living in even worse conditions and dealing with them. So.
Cool, moist conditions is actually the exact opposite that you want to do with tuberculosis. You kind of want dry and warm conditions for that.
For sure.
Not that, and that's still, you're talking just fractions of a % of a better life that you would lead with that. So it didn't help.
That's
but
why
he was convinced.
Tombstone.
he was convinced that everything was going great because after a while, he based all of this on because even at the first discovery of this place of Mammoth Caves, tourism was a big thing. People came from all over to check this place out because it was so amazing and just gigantic and would seem to go on forever. And a lot of people reported kind of energized and feeling like, better about themselves, health wise and things like that after being in the caves. And that's all he was basing his idea that TB cases would be better off trying it out down there. And to be fair, I mean, at the time with no cure and not much of not a lot of research done with tuberculosis as far as, cure-alls, you would take any chance that came along. Oh, if I got to go down in the middle, hundreds of feet underground, miles back into some mystery cave that's, gazillion years old, I will take it, kind of a thing. So, this doctor, I feel, was kind of leading a lot of these people along. But to be fair, he had TB too. So he had a little bit of interest in people getting better. And there was a point where he thought it was going so great. He was thinking about some of those larger areas, like Pam mentioned, where he had secluded himself to a much more open area further back into the caves than where, this thing was, where the regular patients were. He was thinking of possibly opening up like a big hotel specifically for tuberculosis patients to come and get better by just spending a few weeks down under the ground and breathing in the cold, damp air.
And we were discussing backstage, it reminds us of another story very close to this.
Except I don't think this guy was quite as flim-flammy.
Yeah.
Not
Crescent Hotel.
Yeah, the doctor at the Crescent, he was a shyster for sure.
Yeah, he was a flim-flammer.
Yeah. Well, he went the extra yard to say over live radio with constant around-the-clock commercials saying, "Hey, everybody, I have the cure for cancer."
Mm-hmm.
What?
Well, sign me up, buddy.
Yeah.
And a lot of people did.
If y'all
and
at home
a lot of people died.
Yeah. Look up Crescent Hotel, Eureka Springs, Arkansas. You will not be sorry. One day we'll do a full thing on it too.
We need to have, I bet Sean would come on. Sean Fitzgibbon.
He did this book.
Yep.
And he did research on it. And it's not just a regular book. It is a graphic novel. And although I'm doing like weird green screen stuff, it's a graphic novel that tells the entire story because he got into like a cache of original letters from the people that ran the hotel when it changed hands. This new guy came over post World War II and bought up like a local radio station and started transmitting out to the world. I have the cure for cancer. If you spend the night, a couple of weeks at the Crescent Hotel, you'll be cured. Yep. And he was like injecting people's like skulls and stuff with like who knows what. And of course, none of that worked. None of that worked. So
No.
people died in horrific pain over prolonged periods of time, which is why the Crescent Hotel is probably pretty damn haunted right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, if you go back and watch our last show, we showed a couple pictures from the cold holding area in the basement where they used to put the bodies while they were waiting for them to get shipped back out. So go back and check that out.
I'm feeling like there might be a group trip with some videography involved.
That would be fun. Yeah. Just to do
Maybe do a mini documentary for the shows.
that would be really cool.
Could put it up on all the YouTube channels that we have.
I like that.
Would be awesome. I like it a lot. I do. Before we move on, I did have one other part to the older stuff out of that visitor's guide I wanted to talk about. So back in 1840, let me take this back a little bit further than that. Back in 1814, two of the miners that were there, they found a mummy on what they called Audubon Avenue at the time. And it's actually known as also the Bat area. They concealed it for a time, thinking that they would go back and make some money off of this, you know. And so what they did was they placed large stones over top of it and to mark spots on the wall so they would remember where it was, but they never got back to it. And in 1840, the present hotel keeper in 1840, his name was Mr. Miller. He learned about this. So he went in search of it and he found it. It took him a while, but he found it. And the markings on the walls, and he found the large stones. And when they moved them, there were the mummies, or the mummy, and it was smashed to smithereens because they had placed large stones on it, and it had completely pulverized it. So that was really sad.
And what year was that?
That was in 1814 when they hit it. He found it in 1840. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then there was another gentleman that came through. He visited the cave in 1813. And when he was digging in the saltpeter earth in one of the short caves, there was a flat rock that they found. And below it was, they called it a surface of earth into the cave. And basically it was a built down room, like a crypt. And there was a female mummy in there. And her hands were kind of tied together, but it looked more like it was to keep them in place once she was put in this area. She had very short hair, and she was covered in very fine skins and things like that that didn't have much hair on them. But the cool part of all this, you know, she was covered in ornaments and everything, and her body was in a state of near perfect preservation, and it was sitting erect. And she was wrapped in 2 deer skins. But the cool part that I wanted to bring it up was she still had hair on her head. It was very short, but it was there. And the color of the hair was a dark red. And the teeth were near perfect and white. I thought that was interesting.
Was she extremely tall?
We've got Enzo's interest now.
You know, the mummies in the sitting position is a common burial position in South America.
Mm-hmm. It is. And I thought it was interesting because you don't really, at least in this area, I don't recall a lot of burials that were done like that I can.
Yeah, there was.
Was there a bunch?
The entire Ohio River Valley.
Have the setting mummies?
The very tall Indian tribes, the tall, white, blonde-haired, blue-eyed Indian tribes were all buried like that.
Setting up? Okay. Mm-hmm. I forgot
Which we'll talk about later. Giants in Kentucky. That's another fun, huge topic.
Yes, and they did judge this figure. They called it a very tall female at about 5 feet 10 inches tall. So she wasn't huge, but... and she weighed about 14.
By today's standards, I mean, that's 5'10" would have been like NBA status thousands of years ago.
And 5'10" is still fairly tall for a woman today.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Way taller than me.
Yeah. Word. Way taller than me.
And the entire mummy only weighed 14 pounds. So that tells you the
Been there for a while.
situation with the saltpeter and how it really contributed to the formation of the mummies there. So
Was that the one that was found by a tourist? Was that one of those?
yes, this was a
Is
gentleman that had came in as a tourist. They called him an academic, though. He was an academic tourist.
nerd? Yeah, got it.
He was a big nerd, but he did find it. And he goes into very, like, 2 pages worth of exposition about how it was placed and what all was on her and the ornaments that were found and things. So it was pretty interesting. But yeah, I thought it was pretty cool.
That's
I did want to
pretty
throw that in there before we moved on.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So, okay, we talked about Corpse Rock. Now we're going to move on to the Methodist Church. There's actually an area inside the caves called the Methodist Church. And it's actually an area where the miners would go and have their own little church services. However, the area is now regarded as one of the most haunted places in the entire cave system. It's one of the regular stop-offs for the tour guides because they know that they're most likely going to get at least a little bit of activity to kind of spook their tourists with just a little bit. This area is known for whispers, people getting touched, shadow people like crazy, and full-on apparitions that people assume are actually real people on their tour before they disappear. I found a really good story from a tourist that went just a few years ago and said that while on the tour in the Methodist Church area, there was a gentleman standing beside a woman, and he kind of smiled at her and nodded, and she smiled and nodded back. And the tour guide turned all the lights off. They like to do this in the caves, so you can kind of get a really good idea.
If you go a tour on any cave anywhere, especially in the United States, there will be a point where, like, okay, everybody, make sure you're clear next to everybody else. We're going to turn the lights off for a second. Tell us what you feel or whatever.
Yeah, that's
Then,
happened to me.
Yeah.
boof, it's just total
Yeah.
darkness because there's nothing.
Can't see your hand in
is
front of your
going on.
face. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So
freaky.
they did this in this spot. They turned off all the lights. She was sure, really scare them because they've just told them all this, folklore and legends. And they turned the lights off and then they turned it back on again. And when they turned it back on, the gentleman that had been standing beside her was suddenly gone. And she actually spent the whole rest of the tour looking for him. She said there was only about 20 people on her tour. There's no way she could have missed him coming in because by this point they'd already been like halfway through the tour. And there's no way he could have walked away while they were in the dark. And later on, she asked the tour guide about it. She was like, hey, how many people did we have on the tour? And she had one more in her count than he did. So I thought that was pretty.
A spectral guest along with them. Huh?
Spectral, yes. Very prevalent in the Methodist Church area.
Very
Yeah. So
And I think wasn't that the build up for like this structure and stuff like that was because we had mentioned how like they mined saltpeter in 1812 and stuff like that. That was all actually mostly done by African American slaves,
Yes.
Mhm.
and they had a big part in building up like the Methodist Church area. And a lot of those, people, even post Civil War, stayed there and actually were the first tour guides
Yes.
at the Mammoth Cave.
Let me bring that here. We have a couple more pictures. I'll bring them up real quick so we can
Oh,
show you.
sorry.
No, you're good. No, that's playing right into
bring
this.
up Stephen Bishop because that's a good time. Yeah. So Stephen Bishop is one of these gentlemen that Enzo's kind of talking about. Stephen Bishop was actually one of the first kind of like major explorers of the cave. He also taught classes on the cave and he took tours. And actually now horribly haunts the entire area and even the cemetery where they buried him at. I think it was out on I think it's a Baptist church right near the cave entrance. There's a Baptist church out that way where he's buried at. There's a stone there in the picture. He shows up as a shadowy figure with a lantern. He'll show up on tours. They'll see him off in the distance. They'll see him near the cave entrance, and they also see him at the church, oddly enough.
So
bet.
he might have been the tour guide that they were talking about in that little visitor's guide.
Yep.
It may have
Probably,
been.
yeah.
Because he passed
His
away in 1859, so
yeah.
could have
His
been.
most famous way to show himself, though, is by handprints. And I read about this. I thought it was very interesting. There's some areas in the cave where they will take tourists to, so you can kind of see how the, and I don't remember the name of it, the specific type of fallout that happens from the water leaking over and over again. Not the stalactites and stalagmites, but where it just rushes down the sides of the rocks and makes that beautiful, like, glistening white stone and stuff.
Yeah, like
Right.
Yeah. They've reported that while standing in front of these areas, handprints will suddenly form right on the slick stone, as if someone had just put their hands there and it kind of dried that area really quick. And they say it's him.
Yep.
Okay.
That's pretty cool.
I've got that he often presents himself as a man in a slouched hat standing on rocks or holding a lantern in the distance, only to vanish when approached.
Yep. He's
He may be the guy that was standing next to the lady,
Yeah, maybe so.
May have been.
Hey,
making sure that they were doing the tours right.
Yeah,
Uh,
we've often
there's
seen around that
another-
area.
Very cool place.
Yeah. There's another explorer that haunts the area too. In his name, they call him Old Lewis. He's a former explorer of the cave, and he was also buried at that same local cemetery. I couldn't find a picture of his headstone. I'm not sure if it's there anymore. They did dig him up at some point and reinterred him right at the entrance of the cave. So you actually walk past his burial every time you go in to view Mammoth Cave.
Wow.
And now he supposedly haunts that front entrance. I would too. I'd been like, why the heck
yeah. Well,
did
just
you have to
hell.
dig me up? Now I get covered in bat crap every night.
We don't have a picture of his tombstone, but we do have a picture of the entrance today, what it looks like, as opposed to that drawing back in the 1840s.
It doesn't look
Yeah.
that much difference except for the addition of ramps and stairs.
Yeah,
A lot nicer to get into.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yes.
Looks like they rerouted the stream of water down your head too when you walk in, maybe.
Such a shame.
Taking all the fun out of everything. Huh?
Yep. Okay, so let's keep moving because there's more. So there is also a cave hat man. And I'm thinking it's not the hat man that we have covered before. This is another gentleman who just happens to wear a hat, and he is also seen off in the distance just about everywhere. And like Mark mentioned about the other ghost, this one also has a tendency to kind of pop out of existence when you start getting just a little bit too near. And also when you shine a flashlight on them, tour guides will often do that, thinking that one of their tourists has made, off on their own and shine a flashlight, and there's actually nothing there. Can you imagine how creepy that is to see something like that in a cave?
Yeah.
You can't readily get out.
Yeah, and you like
Yes.
flash your light at it, and then you
Yeah,
give it away.
you would hear some of these little footprints scampering away.
There's a lot of reports during the blackout experiences of footprints or footsteps approaching the tour groups.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're all
I
like,
believe it.
Yep.
Yeah.
uh,
I found another story, which I actually ended up finding out was not true. It was a story that was made up by a newspaper. However, the amount of people that mention a haunting that's exactly like this makes me wonder if they have created a tulpa inside the cave also.
very possible.
This
All that
ghost is called
limestone?
Melissa. Yeah. She was a young girl, not super young, but young enough, who actually had fallen in love with her tutor, and found out that he was actually due to marry a woman. Got very upset, and kind of in the passion of it, she took him down into the caves, went running on purpose to have him follow her, got him good and lost, and then she made her way back out. And after about a day or so, she started feeling terrible about what she'd done and had decided to go back in. And in her route to go find him, he had gotten so lost himself, she got herself lost, and they both died. Later on, it came out that it was a story published by a local newspaper back in the early 1900s to try to, give some people a scare during Halloween time. However, without having heard this story, there have been an extraordinary amount of accounts of people talking about hearing a man screaming for Melissa, help me, can't find my way out, and also hearing a young woman screaming that she can't get out either, and feeling touched, and all in this supposed area where it was happening at deep in the cave system. So perhaps a tulpa was created? Or maybe the story was actually based on a little bit of truthfulness. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe so.
Yep.
Do you guys have anything about Floyd Collins?
I was actually going to get started on that. Do you want to talk about Floyd Collins?
Go ahead. Well, I mean, supposedly, he died, and they tried to. He got trapped, and they tried to rescue him. He died after 2 weeks. But they say he goes and tries to help people who are lost in the cave. Now, there's a lot more.
That's wild.
It was actually we know now that the section he was in is of course a part of Mammoth Cave System, but at the time they didn't realize that. It was the case like that for a very long time. They thought that side of Kentucky was just pocked with cave systems. What they didn't realize it was all one cave system. It's just about
right.
1,000
I mean,
openings.
technically, sure, it is. A lot of different cave. It's a lot of different cave entrances.
Yes.
But once you start digging into them, they all interconnect. They're all connected, as we say.
Yeah.
I went through one of my books. It's the Lost Cities of North and Central America. And it was talking about Mammoth Cave in there. And it says that the Mammoth Caves are believed by some to be part of a vast subterranean system that exists all around the world. And I don't know if I disagree with that,
I mean,
Maybe.
look how huge it is.
Yeah.
For this map I have here is it's the actual cave lines and all that stuff. And this is that large area that we saw on the big map, but this is where the actual, get over here where you can see my, can you see my mouse?
Yes.
Yeah.
But like Crystal Caves, this is the gentleman that we're about to start talking about. This is where his cave system that he kind of had laid claim to. The main Mammoth Caves are down here towards the center, and each there's a little E here, and here. Those are the entrances to the main Mammoth Cave region. There are other entrances. Every name that you see here, these aren't towns. These are the names of the cave system, basically the cave entrances around that region. But when you look at these dark lines, they're all interconnected. They all connect to each other. They're all a giant network that all reach out all over the place underground.
It's all connected.
Yeah, and I would imagine that there is a lot in between all these that we're just not seeing.
Right. This is where they talk about the 400 plus miles worth of stuff, because you can see here we've got our 1 kilometer and miles a little bit bigger than that. So you can see if you were to start tracking all of these lines together, you're going to come up with close to 500 miles worth of stuff underground. And it's also important, we're just looking straight down. A lot of this stuff, there's some of these cave entrances, I can't remember which one it is, colossal bed quilt. There's some where they have giant staircases because the entrance goes straight down, like almost 300 feet. And they built this intricate staircase thing where tourists can wind their way down to the bottom of this cave and then start the tour. So you've got, spread out, east, west, north, south, plus, down into the earth here for a lot of this stuff. So
pitfalls and
there's a
And speaking of
lot
that,
of stuff.
Yeah, when we're going to talk a little bit about missing people, the whole area is riddled with little mini entrances, fallout areas where the ground just fell away. People,
Sinkholes.
Yeah.
sinkholes,
Yeah. Look
people
at that.
just fall in sometimes. They give you fair warning if you go off the hiking trails in the area.
This is one of those. It's basically a vertical shaft that opens up to the outside, and they have built these stairs where it's multiple landings just to get down to the bottom of it.
Yeah,
That makes me think of Marvel Cave in Branson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Silver Dollar City. Yeah, it's like that. I don't think it's quite that deep, but it's pretty much a
Big
I
enough
can
to
do
float
it
a hot air balloon in.
yeah.
So, okay, Floyd Collins, like Mark said, he was making his way into the sand cave. Rock fell on him while he was in a very narrow area. He was kind of shimmying through. Rock came down, fell on his left leg, pinned him. The only thing he got lucky with was he had been smart and he had told his friends where he was going that day, and he didn't come back home. And some of his friends got a little worried, went out there, they saw his coat at the entrance and was like, he's definitely still in there. One of the couples had a 10-year-old boy, and they sent him down in to shimmy through some of those areas. The 10-year-old boy found him, but where he was at, they couldn't reach him with any kind of rescue equipment to even get that rock off of him. And they spent the next couple of weeks desperately trying to figure out ways to get him out. They dug side shafts and shafts from above to try to get down to him. And at one point, about a weekend, they had a flash flood come through, and that took out their way to get him food and blankets. So
And
it was very much...
It's possible even some of those emergency shaft things they were doing kind of loosened up a lot of stuff, because there was a lot of rockfall too, where basically he got cut off from everybody. I'm sure there were probably little nooks and crannies where they could have probably yelled at us like, "Are you okay? Yeah. No, my leg is still trapped." That kind of stuff, but they couldn't get to him at all.
It would be even worse, if they could just kind of yell at you and they couldn't get you. Oh, poor guy.
It was very much it was very much a baby Jessica in the well situation. The newspapers and radio and anybody who could get a hold of the information was putting it out. They actually had reporters in tents hanging out near the cave entrance, waiting for the next thing to come through so they could put it in the newspapers and on radio. It was pretty crazy. But like I said, they had that flash flood. They could no longer get him food. They couldn't get him blankets. And he ended up dying of exposure and probably some gangrene and stuff to that leg that had been crushed, I would imagine.
For a couple of weeks,
hypothermia, because he got wet and then they couldn't get him any more blankets. He couldn't get dry. Yep. And like Mark said, 2 weeks after that, he passed. They, however, did not get to his body until 2 months later, because that's how long it took him to get down to him.
Yeah, to clear all that debris.
I'm surprised they didn't leave me, honestly.
Yeah.
And honestly, because a lot of the research I did, they kind of credited this particular case of the first media circus kind of a thing, about the morbid media circus, I think is how they phrased it, where somebody's trapped, there's a rescue going on and all this stuff, because people came from all over the country to sit in and to pray. Some people just came to gawk. It was all over the newspaper, over the radio, were constant updates about this guy getting stuck down there. There were so many people that entrepreneurs set up hot dog and hamburger stands outside. They were even selling merch outside out of the Crystal Cave entrance where this guy was stuck in, because it had garnered so much attention across the entire country.
Yeah, gotta love the media.
Yeah.
So you think this poor guy, you're like, poor Floyd, what a terrible ending. It doesn't stop there.
Oh no.
Worse. I am not shocked that this dude is haunting the entire cave system. So after this happened, this was such a media frenzy, like Enzo said. He was still famous even in death. So they thought, let's take advantage of this. And they took his body, which had already started drying out because it was deep down into the cave, and they put him in a casket with a nice glass lid so you could see down inside. And then they spent the next, 40, 50, 60 years, passing him around to different sections of the cave so he could be a part of the tour guide stuff. He got looked on by every tourist that came through that cave. He sat in different sections for a while. He even sat at the front entrance for a while. And unfortunately, I think it was like in the 60s or the 70s, somebody stole his body.
Somebody busted open the glass case and swiped his body.
They did find him. They found him in
Yeah,
the field.
it was not that far away. Unfortunately, the leg that had trapped him in there was also missing. I think they did find that eventually, but when they originally, found basically it's just a skeleton at that point. That his original, was it his left leg or his right leg that was trapped under the rock, that he was stuck there? Why they didn't just hacksaw it off, which would have been a classic. Honestly, that's like Civil War type field surgery that they probably would have done, and he probably would have lived if they had done that right away. But whatever, they thought they could save him, I guess. But anyways, he eventually was reassembled and
reassembled, put back in the coffin and added back to the tour.
Patched him up
they kept him.
Put him back.
Yep, put him back in. Put him back up on display.
Yes,
poor beggar.
In fact,
so callous.
he went back on display, and then they finally interred him back into another area that was not on the tour anymore. It was in the Crystal Caves, I believe. They put him back down into the end of the Crystal Caves, which were not on the regular tour anymore. I actually have a ghost story from that I'm going to tell here in a minute. But after he sat down there for a little while, they finally released his body back to his family so they could bury it in 1989.
89.
Good
89.
Lord.
Yeah. So the fantastic ghost story I found, I was so excited when I found it because it's a good, like
years.
solid, old-fashioned, like good ghost story. So, this happened on July 22nd, 1961. It would have been not that long after they got his body back. He's sitting down in the bottom of Crystal Caves by the old tour office, just sitting collecting dust. And there was two researchers, Will White and George Deek, who had come down into the Crystal Cave Systems to do a little bit of research. They were independent researchers, and there was a place down in the bottom. There's an area in there called the Grand Canyon, and they were needing to get down to the bottom of that to do their research. And on their way trooping down there, they suddenly heard a phone ringing, which was a little weird and out of place, but all of these cave systems have little offices in them, so they could contact each other, blah, blah, blah. So they decide to follow the sound of the ringing, and they find it. They find an old Army-style phone hanging on the wall of this little office, literally 10 feet away from poor Floyd's body. And they're a little weirded out by it. They're like, ugh, body alone in a cave, but okay. And Will White ends up picking up the phone and answering it and saying hello. And he says what he hears on the other end sounds like when somebody turns a phone on but doesn't say anything into it and just sets it down. And you're hearing kind of the ambient noise of a room. He thought he heard maybe a conversation going on in the background and the sounds of stuff maybe getting moved around on a table or some footsteps. And he waited a little while and then said louder, he said, "This is the Crystal Cave System. Is there somebody needing to speak to us?" And when he did, he heard a really, really weird sound and the fumbling with a phone and then a click. And they thought, well, that was strange. But they let it be. They headed on down into the cave. They did their research. They were there for a few hours. And then when they got done, they were heading back out. And the other guy, George Deek, said, hey, let's follow that phone line back out. Because, of course, you can follow the line out. It's not embedded in the wall or anything. So they decide, let's do this. So they follow the line all the way back out through the front of the cave, and it ends up at the little old ticket box where you would get your tickets to go into that side of the cave. And they followed the line right up there, right to where it had been snipped completely in two. It was all rusted. So where was the phone call coming from? It was coming from inside the cave.
It's coming from inside the cave.
It's a ghost
That
spot time.
actually, that is an old Twilight Zone episode where the phone keeps ringing and the dead person is on the other end and the phone lines had fallen down on top of the grave.
Yep. It's good
I
stuff,
have a
man.
good ghost story like that just from Katie. Just throwing this in real quick. My friend Janie, she had a house in downtown Katy, and I helped her work on it, remodel different rooms and things. And she had put an old phone in upstairs in the hallway, and we knew it was up there, didn't think anything of it, and it started ringing, and we were like, hey, that phone's ringing. We don't know why the downstairs one isn't ringing. Something's wrong with it. And she was like, I took that phone out. I took that phone out. And we were like, what? She's like, I took it out. So we start going up the staircase, and it was like when you came up the stairs, it was just to your left. And we get up there, and the phone was sitting there, but the wires were not. She had undone the wires. It wasn't connected.
Creepy.
And we heard it ring. We all heard it ring. And this was well before, this was like in the late 80s, early 90s. So this was before cell phones.
Wing, 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 wing. Your friend is calling.
Do you remember that old, because it was the phone that you had to, it was a rotary phone.
Rotary
Mhm.
dial.
Do you remember that old ring that it did?
Yeah.
That's what it was doing. Yes, that's what it was doing. Was that ring really loud? Yeah. I can hear it right now in my head.
I've had a flashback to the 70s.
Yeah.
It's not the first time that's happened, I imagine. But
Probably not.
Okay. Moving on, because we're
Sorry.
running out of time. We haven't even hit Kelly Hopkinsville yet.
No, we haven't.
So the pit. This is another area of the cave. This is an area usually just for divers. It's basically a gigantic hole you dive down into, and then it opens up at the bottom. Divers use it to train in for cave experience, and I found an excellent story that happened back in 1992. So a diver was diving off the pit, and he apparently had gotten lost, but quickly made his way up. However, the dive team that was with him had said he had been missing for over an hour. He thought he was only gone for 15 minutes. He'd been gone for an hour. However, when they checked out his scuba equipment in his air, they found out he had only used up 15 minutes of air.
Ooh.
Yeah.
wow.
He'd also stated that he had gone very, very far away and had gotten lost and almost thought he wasn't going to be able to make it all the way back. And they took a look at his line, the line out that they use to keep attached to them so they can find their way back through cave systems. It had never unreeled. So according to their equipment, he had been down there for only 15 minutes, although he was sure he was gone for about an hour, and his reel line never got put out. So he basically sat at the bottom of the hole and never
It didn't move.
But
Even though he knew he
said
moved.
did.
Yeah, even
Yeah.
though he knew he moved. That's
Yeah.
weird.
Weird. It's like missing time and
Yeah.
woo, vortex.
Spatial displacement. That's weird.
Yeah,
That is
really, really weird. Yeah. So
Yeah, that's
I also
that amongst just weird stuff about the cave system itself is you mentioned there's deep water in areas. There's actually areas where rivers come in, go into the cave systems, and then come out the other side, and like
Yeah.
go ahead and like funnel all the way down to like the Gulf of Mexico and stuff like that. It's just
Yeah.
there's a lot of transient activities for water and everything else underground there.
it's crazy.
It is.
Did you guys find the stories about the crawlers? Ugh.
I don't remember a crawler.
Yeah, so there's stories about people seeing what they've named the crawlers, and they're basically these dark, well, they're not dark, they're very pasty pale, but they stay off in the distance so they look kind of dark. They think, or the story behind them is that they were a race of once humans who went into the caves and got trapped and slowly changed and adapted over the years Their arms and legs stretched and became quadrupedal. Their eyes and heads became very large. Eyes are milky gray. Mouths are very large and teeth sharp. And they have very long fingers and toes and are just pasty pale. And apparently they skirt around up in the rocks. Have been seen by quite a few people. They call them the crawlers because they now walk on their feet and hands both.
I mean, it would make sense if something stayed down there and lived down there, that it would be, the milky gray eyes and the.
It sounds like Gollum.
Yeah, they wouldn't have any melanin. Yeah, Gollum, exactly. Ugh.
Yeah. The last one I found that involved the actual cave itself was, and I'm pretty sure this is folklore, but I had to put it in because it's pretty funny. It's called a stone gobbler, and it's a horse-like beast who lives in the caves and eats stones, and it comes to the surface only at night and makes strange eating and braying sounds. People are warned not to shoot at it when they see it. Bullets ricochet off of it because it's so full of stones, and it will fling its head in such a way as to throw the stones back at you that it has just eaten. I thought that was pretty funny.
Stone
classic.
I like that.
I heard of
Deep
that.
folklore.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That sounds like a bad. What were the balls? There's the cartoon. Remember, got to collect them all.
Pokemon?
Yeah, it sounds like a bad Pokemon.
Oh,
Okay.
gotcha. I didn't know where you were
which way
going.
that was going.
Sorry,
Glad that ended up there with that
I
starting
never,
point. Yeah.
I never messed with those dang things, so
Yeah. Don't mess with the ball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never.
So, okay, there's even more to the cave, but we don't have time to get completely detailed about all these little ins and outs. I do, however, before we move on to the next topic, I want to touch on what happens up above the cave system, up on regular ground where we're at. So much happens up there too. It's almost like a high strangeness area. You've got tons of Bigfoot. In fact, I found a Bigfoot sighting just from a year ago. Crazy enough. There was a huge one back in 2019 that involved an entire troop of Girl Scouts. Crazy.
What?
Dogman.
I didn't hear that one.
Save the Samoas.
Yeah. All sorts of cryptids. Weird, strange, missing 411, and of course I mentioned earlier when Enzo was talking about all the little pits and stuff like that. I almost attribute a lot of those that have gone missing to people who have fallen through into areas that are not searched.
Right.
It happens.
It
They give
could.
you warnings when you're out on the
Tons,
hiking
yeah.
trails not to go off trail. You never know.
Yeah, it could definitely happen.
Before we move on, I will throw out Josh Gates' show, Expedition X, about a year or so ago. They did do a paranormal investigation in Mammoth Caves. And I to be fair, I didn't, it's like an hour plus, and it's free on YouTube. Where just go up into the search bar on YouTube, Expedition X, Mammoth Caves, and you'll find that there's some interesting video that they caught where it's actually not entirely different from what I may have caught last Friday, to be honest. There's some shadow movement in the cave that is interesting, and some sounds and stuff like that. So, but it does get into the lore, gets a little bit into the history. And if you're not familiar with going into the caves, it's a very good introduction for what it takes to go down into some of these areas, tracking that down. And it's an easy watch, and it's free. So
Yep.
check out Josh Gates' work.
It's a win-win.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
Very cool.
All right,
I
before
don't
we
think I
before
saw
we
that
move
one.
out, I actually found, I was super excited. The doctor case kind of reminded us of Crescent. Well, I found a case that reminds me of Terryville. I found the Mammoth Cave murderer. Yeah,
Ooh.
apparently back in the day there used to be a inn right near the mouth of the cave that would, of course, allow the local tourists to come in and have a place to stay if they were going to be in the Mammoth Cave area for a little while. And this dude would pick out the ones that had, were the wealthiest, it looked like they had the most stuff to lose, and would offer to take their horses out back behind the inn and stable them. Well, out back was a sinkhole. And he would run their horses into the sinkhole and then turn around and run back into the inn and say, oh my goodness, the horses just went into the sinkhole. You've got to come help me get them out. I can't do it by myself. And the owners, of course, would come running because back then, your horses are your car, basically,
Yeah.
That's a lot of money. They would come running and he would point the way and let them get in front of him. And when they got up close enough to the edge, he would just boot them over. And go back and, steal everything out of their luggage that he wanted, chuck the rest of the luggage and any sign of them left down into the hole, and then start all over again. Went on for quite a number of years before they finally caught on when they started noticing that people were missing. Sounds very much like our benders.
Benders, yeah.
Yes.
Big time.
Wonder how many bodies they found in the bottom of that sinkhole.
I don't know.
I'm still curious to see how many they're going to find additional on the Bender's place.
Yeah.
They're looking now.
Yeah. All right. Does anybody have anything else they want to talk about Mammoth before we move on?
No, I'm not tonight. I'm sure I've got a lot.
We spent a lot longer than I thought we would on that, to be honest.
It's a big
We haven't even
topic.
covered it all.
There's so much craziness.
There's more.
Yeah, we pretty much
we
raced
get the-
through all of
Yeah.
I think the cave systems there are probably key to a lot of the weird stuff that goes on in Kentucky.
Yeah.
Yep.
Ginger said plesiosaurs ate stones to help digest their food. We're getting ready for summer reading at the library, and the theme is going to be dinosaur related this year. I can't remember exactly. Is it dig into a good book or dig into good stories? I can't remember. Sorry, Ginger. She'll tell me what it is, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Stones are crunchy. They break your teeth. Yes, they do. And then Enzo. Yep. Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, and their craw.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Woo. All right. Let's move on so we can squeeze Kelly Hopkinsville in there before we...
Think we can?
Yeah, we can. It's not the hugest story. It's just a lot of, theories.
Do you want me to bring up pictures, or do you want to talk a little bit about it first?
I'll go ahead and bring up the pictures and we'll talk about it.
They're fun.
It's fine. Yeah. So if you've never heard of the Kelly Hopkinsville encounter, or the Kelly Hopkinsville Goblins, or the Kelly Goblins, or the Hopkinsville Goblins, or the Green Monsters of Kentucky, they've got about 1,000 names. You've been under a rock somewhere, because this is one of my favorite ones. In growing up and then through high school, delving into the Ripley's Believe It or Not books, and the this was in there.
This is the one you always have to go check out.
Yeah. So on Sunday, August 21st, 1955, the Sutton family was at home on their little farm. It was just tucked outside of Kelly, Kentucky. It was a tiny house, 3 rooms. No running water, no telephone, no TV, no radio. It was very basic. However, there was a lot of people there that day. There was a mama who was widowed at the time, all of her kids' wives, and all of their kids all shoved in this area, right? So at 7 p.m., I wrote it all down so I can read it, because it's kind of a step-by-step thing, and it unfolds in the craziest way. 7 p.m., the Sutton family friend, Billy Ray Taylor, went to go get water from the backyard well when he saw a really bright, silvery object with an exhaust all the colors of the rainbow. He watched it come silently towards the house, pass over it, stop in midair, and then drop to the ground. He ran inside and reported the incident to his wife and to Lucky Sutton, who was also one of the sons. And his wife, 50-year-old matriarch Glennie Langford, her 2 older sons and their wives, a brother-in-law, and Glennie's 3 younger children who were 12, 10, and 7 at the time. Holy cow, a lot of people. No one believed him, of course. An hour later, the dog started incessantly barking, so Billy and Lucky went out to investigate, and they could see a strange glow coming at them, which ended up being a little tiny, small, strange creature, which is what you're looking at right now. This is what they drew out. They reported that it was about 3.5 feet tall, oversized head, almost perfectly round, arms extending almost to the ground, hands with talons, oversized eyes that glowed yellow, whole body gave an eerie shimmer as if made of silver. Terrified, they both grabbed a 20 gauge shotgun and a 22 rifle and fired at it. It had been walking towards them, hands raised at the time, but when they shot at it, it kind of did a little funky backflip, scrambled back up, and then fled into the darkness. They both ran screaming back into the house, locked all the doors and the windows, and shortly after, one of them popped up in one of the little side windows and was kind of looking in the house at them. They shot at it again through the screen, and this one also did a little backflip and then scurried off into the darkness and disappeared too. So they're scrambling around in the house, trying to get to all the windows to make sure that nothing can get through. And at the time, Billy and Mrs. Langford were together in one of the hallways that faced the front door. And she actually gave a little statement on this one. She said she looked towards the front door and there was one standing right in front of the front door on the front porch. And she said it looked like a 5-gallon gasoline can with a head on top and small legs. And that it was shimmering bright metal like her brand new refrigerator. So there's that. Billy then stepped outside under the porch roof, and everyone inside watched a small claw-like hand reach down from above the roof line and touch his hair. They all screamed and pulled him back inside, and one of the other gentlemen came out and shot above him through the roof of the porch, and then shot again at another creature he'd seen in a nearby tree. That thing they watched actually float down from the branch and then run off into the woods like the other ones had. So they're freaking out. They're seeing them everywhere. They're hearing them scratching on the roof. And finally it all goes quiet at about 11 p.m. and they make the executive decision for everybody to run their butts to the cars. They got in and they drove all the way to Hopkinsville to the sheriff's office to report this. The sheriff is like, oh my gosh, he's not concerned about the little aliens they're reporting. He's concerned that there's a whole bunch of drunk people shooting at each other. So he calls backup. He calls up a lot of his guys. He calls local police from the local military police from Fort Campbell. The local newspaper caught wind of it while he was trying to scrounge everybody up, and they sent a reporter and a photographer out. So there was so many people hit this little tiny farm all at the same time. However, they didn't find any evidence. The only thing they did find, which they didn't count as evidence, was apparently on that porch where they had shot at the one creature from above. They said they saw a little thin, shimmery green fluid, a viscous fluid, smeared on that porch underneath the hole where the bullet had gone through. But they didn't claim it to be anything. They were like, oh, it's just, whatever.
That
So
sounds like, that sounds like evidence.
Yeah. They were
Kind
like, no
of.
evidence.
Yeah.
They actually raided the little farmhouse looking for liquor because they were sure they were all hopped up on something. However, they soon came to find out that the place was dry because, the matriarch mama there would not allow liquor or alcohol into her home. So that got put aside. They all just kind of threw their hands up and were like, well, we don't see anything. And they all left. So the family kind of retires in for the night, and at like 2:30 in the morning, the matriarch was woken up because one of them was sitting in her window with its hands against the screen, scratching. Right? Yeah. And it was glowing on top of that. It was like brightening up her room. as it glowed and scratched at her window. She, of course, woke up all the men. They grabbed guns and started shooting up the joint again.
Oh my
Did not,
God.
however, go to the cops. They said it went quiet at dawn. Everything just kind of disappeared and went quiet. So the police decide to show back up again, just to double check everything. Again, they say they don't find anything, and it's just ridiculous. However, the newspaper picked it up like crazy and sent it out everywhere. It became so sensationalized through the radios and newspapers, and that curiosity seekers started showing up by the hundreds. They posted no trespassing signs trying to keep them off the property, but to no avail. So finally they decided to give up and make a little bit of money off of it, and they started charging people to come in on the property. I actually wrote it down. I thought it was pretty funny. It was 50 cents to come onto the property. It was $1 if you wanted some information about what had happened. And it was $10 if you wanted to take pictures. Pretty pricey.
Amy.
Right?
They might as well make money off of it. You know that their yard was getting torn up and everything.
Oh, Lord, yeah.
I mean, their house was
Can't
tore up.
imagine that was a big issue with them.
Yeah. Now, the drawings that you're getting to see that Pam has up on the screen, these were all done by a gentleman named Bud Ledwith. He worked at a local radio station, and he actually took the time to sit down with each one of them and interview them thoroughly. He took down notes of each one of them considered it to look like, and he did these drawings kind of for them to kind of show what they had been seeing. And he actually made remarks about how consistent and specific all of their stories were. There was never a kink in the works when he was doing all these interviews with everyone. He even interviewed the kids. So, and this actually came in handy. All this work that this one little radio station employee did came in very handy, because later on in 1956, the incident was actually finally thoroughly researched by ufologist Isabel Davis, who actually worked closely with J. Allen Hynek. She was part of Blue Book also. She deep dove this thing and actually put an entire published paper together, which you can still find today. It's about 200 pages long, and includes detailed maps, drawings, records, summaries, full accounts, interviews from everybody, including the police and the investigators that showed up there today. She even got a hold of the military police that were there. So if you're interested in the story, her name is Isabel Davis.
Is there a name to her paper? Or is it just?
So I believe it's just called the Hopkinsville Goblin Incident or something like that. It was published by the Center of UFO Studies.
Cool.
Yeah. But this family still lives under this darkened umbrella of goblins. Unfortunately, they never called them goblins. They never called them anything at all except for the creatures that came onto their farm. This was tagged by newspapers and radios and sensationalists.
Much like the flying saucer thing, it was all the press. That's who came up with the name of goblins.
Yeah. In fact, I think they called them green goblins, and they were never even reported to have been green. But now, if you look at colorized pictures of these, they're almost always green, even though they were never reported to be green. But these weird little dudes, I just imagining it in my mind as I'm going through the story. I mean, the fact that they were doing cute little backflips and...
They also described a very distinctive sound whenever they'd shoot at them. They described it as like shooting into a metal bucket, where it was this like weird hollow ricochet kind of sound when they would hit him. These are some good old boys. They did quite a lot of plinking, I'm sure.
I'm sure they hit pretty often.
And they probably were a dead shot. And every time they'd hit them, and they'd kind of like, whoa. Out of the way, it was this hollow ricochet kind of sound, which you wouldn't expect from shooting at any kind of varmint of similar size.
It's
Yeah.
true. Unless they were in some
It's-
kind of spacesuit.
Cyborgs.
Yeah. It's all very strange. Also, which they don't mention a lot, but the mother later on gave a very good account of what the little UFO looked like. Did you have that picture?
Yes.
That
Yeah.
was a good picture.
There
of that.
was a little UFO involved, and this
Oh.
story kind of reminds me of Delphos just a little bit.
Yeah.
The little UFO. Now, beyond this one story, this is always the stories that get sensationalized. You never hear anything else, and I think it tends to make this family sound like a bunch of backwoods idiots who maybe got drunk or just wanted a good story to tell, and wanted their 5 minutes of fame. However, what's not reported a whole lot is the fact that when this occurred, there had been other sightings of a UFO that looked very similar to this in the area in the weeks leading up to and the weeks afterwards. And there was also reports of some really weird, strange little tiny creatures people were seeing on their properties. It's just that no one else, got raided enough to escape their home and report it to the authorities.
Or
So
go
they
on a
kinda
shooting
got-
spree.
They kind of got kicked in the butt for all their trouble.
They did. They really did.
One of the craziest ones though, but they've become so famous now. Of course, they have entire conventions named after them. You can find all sorts of merchandise with the little green men on them. And
Goblin Con is coming up the end of September this year.
yes.
Yeah.
Some believe that these little creatures are kind of what inspired whatever it was that got the Hellier team
Yes. Yeah.
on into the Kentucky area, that this was kind of a way to lure them into the space. There's a lot of stories. I'll see if I can't hunt up a couple of them. I know I've got some of them somewhere where in the Kentucky Mammoth Cave area, they say not to hang out near the little areas where there's openings into the caves that are not taken care of properly, because little creatures will come out.
Yeah. And the mines, the old mine shafts that are
Mhm.
abandoned, they're everywhere. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
lot
there's a lot of that. Well,
Yeah.
honestly, there's a lot of those all over Kentucky, but
Yeah.
in Tennessee and stuff like that, there are basically open caves going underground with right in the backyard of where this occurred. And to put it in perspective for what we were talking about earlier, Mammoth Caves is about 75, 80 miles east northeast of there. Probably, which will actually probably come more into play the next episode. Only about 20 miles to the west of there would be the LBL, the Land Between the Lakes,
Yeah.
which has a very, very sordid back history about that. And we could probably do a whole show just on the LBL itself.
oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
That's a fascinating place.
So much stuff.
Yeah.
Another interesting point about this story, or I think it's interesting to me, it'll be interesting to you all. I don't know how interesting it will be to maybe the average everyday person who maybe doesn't study this stuff so much. But the investigators who came in, the military police, the policemen who came in to really look into this and to dig, they kept going back to the fact that they was sure that the family had mistaken these, that they were just owls.
Yes. I mean,
Owl.
And all I could think of was
owl.
they probably were just owls.
Just owl.
Owl. Owl. Owl.
Yeah, their reasoning for it was because the family kept saying, their arms were so long, their talons were almost just touching the ground. The arms were so dramatically long. And they kept saying, well, owls have long wings, so that's probably what you were seeing.
They do have long legs, but they don't have long. I mean,
but you can't
Well,
really
their
see
wings
their legs.
touch.
their wings are long, but they don't look anything like these little skinny arms that we've got going on in these
No.
pictures.
And that's, yet another thing. I mean, how ridiculous and demeaning to tell these
Yeah.
people who have grown up in this area for generations. They know their stuff. They farm this land. They're in it all the time.
Right.
How dare you stand
Really.
up and say, "Oh, you just mistook it for a common owl"?
Yeah.
I think it's so,
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, they're out there
Horrible.
every day. They would.
yeah. It's it's one of my pet peeves. I can't stand it when somebody reports something and somebody just turns around just as quickly and says, "Oh, you just mistook it for, whatever land bird is
It's
popular
obviously
nearby."
Eagle or whatever.
Yeah. Especially from someone who doesn't even live in the area. And
Yeah.
you're like,
Yeah. Right.
that person has grown up there. They have seen these creatures day in and day out. They've seen how they act. They've seen how they move. How dare you?
In today's parlance, that's like your internet expert. Everyone on the internet is an expert on everything. Just ask them.
Just ask
They'll
us.
tell you. Yeah. And it's just maddening, like you say. This would even come up. Obviously, we can see on the screen right here. Obviously, these are some type of owl.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's interesting, like you said, that he talked to the different people, the witnesses, and got such similar drawings.
Yeah. Yeah. He said everyone was just sharp on, even the kids. Exact same story. I can't imagine that you could get a whole family together like that and have them be that accurate, even if they came up the story all their own and, like.
I don't think my family would.
Right.
I do think it's really amazing. And we're coming up into the time, the mid to late 50s up into the mid 70s was a big spat time for these little miniature UFOs.
Yeah.
Everywhere. With the little creatures that came along with them. We've seen them all over Kansas, down into Oklahoma and Texas. There were reports of them in Michigan. We touched on some of those when we did the show with Big Willie. During that time period, there was just a huge spat of these little miniature UFOs almost.
Well, and this is the time period where everybody was talking about LGMs, little green men.
Yeah.
Usually derisively.
Yeah. Yes. It's very true.
But yeah, if you want to read more on them, go for it. That is the basic story. However, if you get into the files on it, there's a lot of people on the internet you found that have deep dove this so deeply. They've actually talked to family members, done full nitty gritty reports. Like, she took 2 steps this way into the kitchen and turned and saw this, and then step by step of how that whole evening went. If you're really interested in that, it's super easy to find on the internet. Go hunt it up.
Yeah, the family's been fairly open about the whole thing. They'll,
in fact,
talk to anybody.
The niece, if you flip to the page with the books, Pam.
Yes.
The niece just got done writing a full book on it from the entire family's point of view. It's that middle one there called Hopkinsville Goblins, written by Geraldine Sutton Smith. She's a Sutton. I could not get a hold of it. It was independently printed. You can get it on Amazon, but I couldn't get it on Kindle, so I couldn't get fast enough to read it. But the people were just talking about how fantastic it was, because you really get to see it from the entire family's point of view. And apparently there's a little bit of information in there that they kind of gave out as a little extra, just a little, extra spice you didn't get to hear in the actual reports. Also on either side of this, if anyone's interested, and of course I'll post these books up on our Facebook page like I always do. Scary Stories of Mammoth Cave was actually written by 2 of the park rangers. Some of the stories you heard tonight is in this book, and some others that are not. And they also put in some of the folklore in it, and some more information on the doctor and the consumption huts and all that other interesting stuff. It's a really good, and it's a short read if you're not really big into books. I think it's about 100 pages long, so check that out. And then the other book on the other side by Dewey Edwards is called 10 Hours of Hell, and this is an excellent book too. He took the family side and the investigator side and some of the neighbor sides and kind of put it all into a step-by-step progression of how that night went, and then into the aftermath and how everything kind of came across in the newspapers. There's a lot of newspaper articles, radio reports, and things like that. So if you're interested in it, that's a really good book to get.
Nice.
Yeah.
Fun ones for sure.
Nice.
Oh, fun topics. Yeah. So I think, are we going to stop there for the night?
Let's stop there. Yeah. So we have
It's
time.
a fine stopping point.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
That way we have time for notebook games. And
Yes. Everybody start picking out your pages. Notebooks 1 through 5, pages 1 through 100. And here in 2 weeks, we're going to be taking a deep dive on all the sorts of craziness. Enzo was talking backstage, who's going to do what. And I was like, we're just going to pick a topic and then just go round table.
Yeah.
And let everybody throw it. Giants, white Indians, the present state of Kentucky and the annals talks a lot about Atlantis. Some people thought Atlantis was in Kentucky, and the Atlans were cast out by the local Indian tribes and moved down and became the rulers of the Incas and the Mayas and all that crazy stuff. We've got elephants in the Ohio River Valley. We've got Roman stuff. We have Egyptian stuff in there. We've got cryptids and hauntings, and it just keeps going and going.
There's so much from that area.
Yeah.
There's so much everywhere, but that is a very concentrated area of strangeness.
It is.
So, are we ready to get started?
Yeah, I'm looking at the first
Oops.
one.
Ah, man, I'm hitting them wrong. Here we go. Sorry about that.
Yeah, Mark cheated again.
422.
Hey, that's today.
Yeah, that's my usual trick.
Well, Mark picked out a page full of crop circles.
Oh,
Ooh.
nice. Those are always fun.
Yeah, it's a listing. On this page, there's 4 of them. So the first one is in Dublin, Ohio. This one happened on June 21st or 2009, or is the day it was found. It's called the Flowing Formation, and it was found in oats. This random formation is in a flow pattern where the oats undulated up and down like ocean waves. The next one listed is the Delaplane Formation from Arkansas, June 14th, 2007. This one was formed in wheat. The outer ring measured 130 feet across. The farmer reported unusual animal behavior and a complete irrigation system battery failure. So he had his irrigation system running on some sort of a battery thing, and the whole thing shut down when this happened. The crop was severely stunted due to a bad drought. The stalks were only about 14 inches tall. The next formation I have is called the Compass Formation. It happened in Red Bluff, California, May 11th, 2007. This happened in grass. They call it the Thought Bubble Formation. All grass was laid counterclockwise, which is odd. Large expulsion cavities found. Deviations in magnetic north were reported. Compass needles would spin inside the formation. Disorientation was also reported. For those of you not in the know, expulsion cavities or expulsion nodes, when you look at a plant, like when you look at a flower, you'll see like a little, they call it like a knuckle that happens in the stem. There's always like that bump that sits somewhere near the head of the plant. That's a node or a cavity. And what they have found with actual crop circles, not the man-made ones, these crop circles are kind of superheated. They think with some kind of a microwave kind of thing going on. And how the grass lays down is from the superheating that happens. New plants that are still very malleable and green, they tend to superheat and they stretch a little bit, and then they gently lay over from the heat and the steam that happens inside the stem. If you get an older plant that's a little bit sturdier, a little bit tougher, the outside of it's dried a little bit, it can't stretch from the heat, so the steam inside builds up very quickly, and the only place for it to go is the softest spot, and that is at the knuckle. And you get these little teeny tiny burnt holes that you see in it where the steam burnt its way through, and then the piece kind of lays over from being superheated. So in older plants and crops, you'll see expulsion nodes or expulsion cavities. That's what they call them. So maybe we should make that a word of the day at some
Expulsion cavity.
Expulsion nodes, expulsion cavities. Yeah. The last one on the page is called the Reed Springs Formation in Clay County, Missouri from 1999. It was a small 9-foot circle found in grass in a cattle chute area. A ball of light was seen by a rancher before it was found. They also found a large amount of magnetized particulate in the soil. And this is something else that they often find in true crop circles. These little teeny tiny pellets of almost pure iron ore. And oftentimes it's magnetized. If they get too near each other, they kind of scoot in and
They almost look like
gather
buckshot.
up.
They're just little bitty balls.
Yeah,
Of
little teeny tiny things.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. That's the end of that page. What do we got next?
Cool. Next is Sylvain, book 3, page 3.
Okay. Hold on. I've got a notebook slide going on again.
Oh, you're
Oh
good.
boy.
Oh no!
While you're doing that, Julie said she had a really good time the other night. We had fun. It was. We're really glad you got to come.
It was
Good
an
job
interesting
here at
meeting.
the Greg Theater. We saw a couple of things, and I feel we educated a lot of folks. So get everyone a chance to try different things that they may not have done before. So it was a lot of fun.
It's a pretty cool evening.
Yeah. Okay. I think this is part of the owl research. I have on this page, it says screen memory blooper stories. I think it's part of the owl stuff.
Sounds like it.
This is about a girl named Lucretia Hart, 19 years old, working at a summer camp for girls in the Pacific Northwest. During the day, walking away from the camping area, she was confronted by a big white colored alien gray. Oh, I think this is that story.
Yeah.
Oh, weird. We were talking about owls. Okay. Completely stark white with a huge head and wraparound eyes. It turned and finally saw her with an oh shit sort of thought.
That's it.
Without spoken words, and started to turn and run away, dashing into the underbrush. Suddenly, a powerful image of a big white owl popped into her mind, like it was attempting to shove a new memory into her head. She stood there listening to it make clumsy crashing sounds as it made its way through the woods in utter panic. So it wasn't that particular one. It wasn't the one where it just kept saying owl, 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 owl. Yeah. The second story on this page, a 5-year-old girl lying awake in her bedroom saw a metal object zip down from the sky and clamp itself to the outside of her window. Before she could scream for her mother, a voice spoke in her head. "Do not be afraid. I am only a friendly owl." She knew it wasn't an owl, but all the fear left her. It had a round lens and a curved metal stalk. It looked like it was peering at her. 3 mechanical shutters closed and opened like it was blinking. She started to walk towards it, but the object detached itself and zoomed back up into the sky. So there's that story.
It's got a very fear not for. Now we're with
I am Woodsy Owl. Give a hoot. Don't pollute.
Give a hoot.
Woohoo!
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah. That was a good one. Good choice, Sylvain. Next one is
Yay.
Notebook 4, page 22 from Ginger, please.
I think that's the one we just did.
Oh, we did. Yeah.
Yeah.
422 was Mark's. Do you want to pick another one, Ginger?
I think she's got one farther down.
Oh, does she? Okay.
Page 24. Notebook 2, page 24.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the one I've got. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I see. Yeah, here she is down here.
Okay. On this one is I think this was part of the Ripley's Believe It or Not one that we did. This one on it has two stories. It has the 50-foot Congo snake and the dead girl in a tube.
Oh, delightful.
Yeah.
How lovely.
So, yeah.
Are you sure it wasn't a dead girl in a 50-foot Congo snake? Kind of tube-ish.
50-foot Congo snake, 1959. It says to the side that there's a photo. I think I remember which one this is. A photo was taken under Colonel Remy Van Leerd, who was flying over the Congo in 1959. Remy spotted what looked to be a giant snake. They flew over the spot many times to photograph it and get an idea for its size. He estimated it to be around 50 feet long. He also claimed that the snake was a dark brown and mixed with green, but its belly was white. He said when they flew over it, the snake raised its head 10 feet up, giving the impression that it would attack their helicopter if they flew any lower.
Dang.
Yeah. And then the dead girl in a tube. This happened in 1840 in the Mark Twain Caves in Hannibal, Missouri. This one's a true story. Oh, and speaking of the 50-foot Congo snake, there is a photo that goes with that. They think it's probably pretty much true. Dr. Joseph Nash McDowell was an influential and respected doctor. He purchased a cave in the 1840s to carry out dissections on illegally gained cadavers in a secret laboratory.
Nope.
Oh, did you find the picture?
Yes. We pulled it up, and I'm over here
Yay.
going, nope.
And Chris just logged off.
Ugh.
She
Yeah.
noped right off there.
No to the snake.
No to the snake. Okay, let's
That's a nope,
let's
bro.
move on to the cadavers. The cadaver stealer guy. Yeah. So, yeah. He purchased the cave in the 1840s to carry out dissections on illegally gained cadavers in a secret laboratory he set up inside. McDowell would recover the bodies himself from local cemeteries. He also taught and made it mandatory that his students must complete at least one dissection before they could graduate. This earned him the nickname Mad Dr. McDowell. His daughter, Amanda, died of pneumonia at the age of 14. He decided to preserve her body by filling a very large clear container with alcohol and placed her body inside, believing in doing so that he could continue to talk to her spirit. He hung her from the ceiling. Wild stories began to pop up about a dead girl floating in a tube in the caves, so the town confronted him. McDowell took her down and confronted McDowell. The town took her down and laid her to rest. They also found out that McDowell had hidden a huge stockpile of Confederate weapons during the Civil War. He's a fun guy.
Wow.
Very interesting.
That's
Oh,
crazy.
goodness. Do we have anything else?
We do.
Okay.
Let's see. We have Julie with Notebook 5, page 48.
Okay. Get down through
Ugh.
here.
Don't like snakes. There was a
Still
spider
on
on
the snake.
my Jeep. Yeah. There was a spider on the inside of my Jeep not my dashboard, my windshield this morning. on the way to Owasso.
Ew.
I don't like spiders. I
Mm-mm.
freak out. It's because they hide.
Mhm. It
Strangely
wasn't
enough,
huge. It was only like that big around, but that was plenty.
those are the worst ones. I don't
Yeah.
mind a tarantula. He can't hide. It's those
I
teeny
mind
tiny
tarantulas
ones.
too.
It's those teeny tiny ones that sneak up on you when you're not looking, and they stare. All 8 eyes.
You know what's really freaky is when there's a spider. Have you ever like shown a light in your grass in the yard at night?
Yeah, you can
All
see
those
the
little
reflection from your eye.
all those little
Yeah.
sparkles are spider eyes.
They're
Good.
watching you, Pam.
Ah,
Okay, this
Nope.
page is on the man from Torrid.
Hey, the man from Torrid. I like it.
Yeah. Okay, so
One of my favorite stories.
A man landed at Haneda Airport, Tokyo International, in July 1954. He was Caucasian and had a beard. When his passport was checked, it said he was from Torrid, a country that does not exist. He said it was situated between France and Spain, which is a small European nation of Andorra, a principality of Spain. This is what he was saying it was. He was arrested and moved to a room at a nearby hotel and placed under security with 2 officers at the only door. The next day, officers went to question him again, only to find him missing, along with all his personal papers and passport that had been in the police's possession. So those also kind of disappeared into the nether. He had possession of money from several different European currencies. His passport had been stamped from many airports before, including several from Tokyo. The company he claimed to work for had no knowledge of him, although he had lots of documentation to prove otherwise. The hotel he claimed to have a reservation at had never heard of him. The company he was there to do business with had also never heard of him. The room he went missing from was several stories up and had no balcony and no means to get down. His driver's license was also issued by Torrid, and he spoke several languages, including Japanese. Weird story.
that's wild.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty
Yeah.
good one though.
And
The city he was talking about actually exists.
Yeah.
It's just not its own country, but it was at one point.
Mm-hmm.
so
Weird.
basically they took him into custody because they didn't know what to do with him. Because he had a fake passport as far as they were concerned.
Yeah.
So they gave him a hotel under lock and key and a guard outside the door. The next morning, they went to knock on the door. It's like, hey, we need to go back to the airport and figure this all out. He was gone.
Like he had never been there to begin with.
Super interesting. I thought the interesting thing of his story is that not only did he disappear, but the paperwork and stuff that they took from him and took
All of
with
this
them
stuff. Yeah.
went vanished too.
Because it
That's
didn't
true.
belong in this timeline.
About that, yeah.
Yeah, that's a time interaction kind of a thing where
I
it
think
exists
that
kind
was
of thing.
just an alternate timeline. He just kind of slips through for a little while.
Yeah, and it auto-corrected somehow.
That makes
That's
me
why
think,
all of his stuff disappeared.
that makes me think of my disappearing house.
Yeah.
Because the photos disappeared that we took of it.
Very creepy cool.
Ooh. Still can't figure that out. I don't know what that's all about.
I think it's the same thing.
Well, yeah. How does it work though? You know?
Pretty much.
Who knows?
I don't know.
They figure that out. They'll figure out how to commercialize, and we'll be taking trips like that all the time.
Yeah. Unless they're already
Non-existent
doing it.
timelines.
It's not
Unless
really
we're
possible.
already doing it.
I have a feeling that can be possible. Okay, the next one. This is the last one. It's Ian with book 5, page 25. Please, Jess.
Okay. It's the same one I had.
Yep. Different realities. Ugh. I just saw Mark's so many eyes. Back to the spiders. What?
So sorry. They drive me totally nuts. To have to tell you the spider story sometime.
I'll tell you what, there was a spider in my bathroom here, and it was nighttime. So, and it wasn't a small one, it was a wolf spider. It was, a big grass spider. And I saw that sucker, and I was like, I have to, no, Enzo.
That's
Enzo just
that's
put
what
a
I'm
big
talking
old
about.
picture.
Staring at all the eyes are staring at me.
Ugh.
Look at all of us.
It was in my bathroom, and I was like, I have to do something with it because I can't go to bed because my luck it'll crawl in bed with me and be sitting on my face when I wake up or something. So yeah, I had to get brave and kill it, and then I cried because it scared me so.
Oh my goodness.
The damn spider.
This is
Might be killing
part of the Mandelas. And I'm sorry if we've been doing a lot of these lately. I have so many Mandelas shoved in every notebook because we keep finding new ones. This is an old one, though. This is from the original. I did an entire episode on just CERN and Mandela with Big Willie. I think we did it for like UFO Garage podcast like years ago. It's been a long time. Yeah, if you want to see something excited, go back and find that episode. It was like Big Willie and Jess talk about CERN, and it was on the UFO Garage podcast because we'd taken over for them for a little while. They couldn't cover their own podcast for a little while. They had some family stuff going on, so we did a few shows for them. And it's hilarious watching Big Willie and his face every time I said a new Mandela, because he was like, wait a minute, that's not how that goes. And then he'd go look it up. We spent like half the time doing that. So, okay. On this page, we have the A-Team van. Do you guys remember what the A-Team van looks like in your head?
Black, had a spoiler, small round window in the back with a red stripe.
Yep.
Okay.
Got a spoiler.
Low to the ground, wasn't it?
The A-Team van was not all black. It was completely two-toned.
No, it was black with a stripy thing, wasn't it?
Red stripe,
Yeah.
tiny window, and a spoiler.
Oh, that's what they said. It's two-toned. The Lincoln Memorial now has a clenched fist instead of an open hand.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe
not
that's
it?
what they meant by two-toned. Maybe that's what they mean by two-toned. I didn't know what the A-Team van looks like, so I
That's
didn't watch
it.
that show.
Yeah, that's the one I remember.
Yeah.
Well, then perhaps that's what they mean by two-toned and not completely black.
I thought it had a little
It's not-
window in the back, though.
It's always had the stripe.
Maybe it's on the other side. Little round window.
Okay. Well, then whoever came up with this Mandela obviously came from a place where it was all black.
Oh, there we go.
Nope, no little round window. I could be misremembering.
Yeah,
I do
don't
remember the
either.
red hubcaps, though.
Yeah, those are nice rims. I'd like to have those.
I said hubcaps. I'm doing good to know that they're wheels. I know nothing
They're
about
round. It's
round.
okay.
It's a van. That's all I know. It's a van.
Also on this page is Da Vinci's Last Supper. There's no cup or chalice, and no loaf of bread on the table.
There's no copper chalice.
Mm-mm. There's also no loaf of bread. Also, oddly enough for me, because I went to school for art, so I had to do a lot of art history classes, and I had to study on these bigger, paintings. I find it odd now when I look at it. There is no food on those plates. The food is on the table and the plates are empty. It's really weird looking.
Yeah.
Oh, that
No
looks
cup.
strange. Yeah.
There's so many
No
versions
cup.
of that on the internet.
This is the original. We're talking about Da Vinci's.
So
This is Da
yeah,
Vinci's.
because
Now, the interesting thing here is, and this is like a secondary Mandela to this Mandela, not only is the chalice missing, but the chalice is still there. It has now moved to the first pillar on the left-hand side.
To the first pillar on the left-hand side. I remember talking about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've talked about it before.
Yeah.
But yeah. You'll also notice that all the plates are empty. All the food that should be on those plates are now on the table around the plates.
That's weird.
Yeah.
That is weird. Why would you have the food laying on the table?
Yeah, and not on the
Yeah.
plates.
Yeah.
And there's no bread. No loaf of bread.
Okay. In the original play of Romeo and Juliet,
I'm like,
there was no balcony scene.
Isn't that the conclusion of the entire play?
Romeo.
The conclusion is when they die.
Yeah.
But the famous scene, the words are there, but in the play where the balcony scene was supposedly became famous because it was always set up with the balcony and he speaks from below and she speaks from above to him. That whole thing that supposedly became famous because of the original play, it was never in it.
That's strange.
Yeah.
I guess it's just because we've always known.
All the depictions I've ever seen.
Yeah. Is balcony. Yeah. The famous balcony scene is what they call it too. So, yeah.
In the famous Michelangelo painting on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, the scene of the creation of Adam, God's hand is now far lower than Adam's. They're not just getting
his fingers aren't touching.
God's isn't higher than Adam's like it should be. It comes from underneath.
That's kind of strange.
Yeah. It looks weird. Tweedledee and Tweedledum. Do you guys kind of remember what Tweedledee and Tweedledum looks like? Yep. See, God's hand is now lower than Adam's, which shouldn't be.
Where'd your hand go?
Uh-oh.
Better be careful where that hand is.
Creepy!
I'm picking this cherub's pocket right here.
Prison pocket? What?
That's funny.
If you picture Tweedledee and Tweedledum from the Disney cartoon, there's no propellers on their hats. Just flags now.
Huh.
Yep.
And I know we've talked about this before, but I still picture propellers when you say that.
Well, and when you buy memorabilia at the park, they've got propellers on them.
Yeah, that's weird.
Weird. But yeah,
is this what it's supposed to be?
Page.
Or
no, it's supposed to be propellers instead of the flags on top of their heads.
I don't remember propellers, to be honest.
Really?
Oh, Enzo comes from a different line. I actually remember one of the scenes where they dance in together because they were kind of twinsies. They kind of did the exact same thing.
Right.
I remember
bumping bellies.
Yeah, I remember a scene where they bounced into frame, and when they stopped, their little propellers went woo, and then stopped. And that scene isn't in there anymore either. It blew my poor little 8-year-old brain. Yep, weird.
Maybe it's a Kentucky thing.
Maybe
it's its own timeline.
Anywho, are we all done? Did we get through everybody's?
Yeah,
that was did.
Awesome. All right, we should get out of here because it's getting late. So make sure to come back here in 2 weeks, 7 p.m. Central, and we will hit the second half of Kentucky Strange. And it probably won't be the end of it, but it'll probably be the end of it for then. If we have a lot more, we'll probably make it into a little mini series that we'll kind of touch back on at another time and hit up another strange Kentucky section. Because boy howdy, we did Strange Michigan, and I thought that was a huge topic. And then I started looking into the Kentucky. Michigan doesn't touch it.
Talk about weird places. It's just
there's so many different avenues we can go down. We'll have to pick one and go and run with it for the next.
The whole state is a high strangeness area.
Mm-hmm.
It is,
and there's different people. I mean, Edgar Casey's from actually Hopkinsville, so yeah.
we'll
And he's a
mention
very
him. I say mention because we don't have time to dive into his story.
Yeah,
He's
that's
his
a
own
whole other show.
podcast.
Just him.
Yeah, maybe we should just do a whole separate Edgar Casey show at some point.
Sometime.
Good.
That's a big taco to bite into.
It is.
All right. Okay. Well, let's get everybody out of here really quick before you leave. Take a quick second. If you haven't hit all the buttons, the likes, the shares, the bells, and the subscribes, go ahead and do it right now. We would appreciate it so much. Thank you to all of our new and old followers. I forgot to mention that at the top of the show. Send us your ideas, your topics, your stories. Let us know what you want to hear about, what you want to see. Catch us, of course, every 2 weeks, Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Central for all new shows. I think the next one will be May 6th. I believe that's the correct date for that.
Yeah,
one.
that sounds right.
And we'll have Enzo and Mark back, and we'll do another ball of fun out of Kentucky. So keep it weird, keep it strange, and remember, it's all connected. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Maybe stay away from Kentucky for a while.